Hey guys, Michael Corsentino with what will be the first in a series of articles and features on shooting, on shaping and controlling natural light. Through a lot of the, as I said in the article, through some of the involvement that I have with online forums, Shutterfest and otherwise, I've done some polling, just kind of trying to take the pulse of what some of the challenges, lighting challenges specifically that people are having. And it seemed like a lot of people really needed help with natural light, with controlling natural light, tackling some of the worst light that's out there, typically around midday and afternoon, and what the tools and techniques are to help them tackle this kind of light. And we've been talking primarily about a lot about strobes, and I kind of realized, hey, wait a minute, you're forgetting about a lot of people who are shooting primarily with natural light, and light is light, and there are some fantastic and great ways to control and shape natural light to create all sorts of different effects. So that's what we're going to cover in this series, starting with a two-parter. This is part one, and I'll be following up with a second part next month, and then on and off throughout the year I'll be throwing in a lot more natural light stuff and maybe mixing some strobe in there as well, but we're talking about natural light as well. So let's start things off with looking at again, that worst case scenario where you are shooting in under just harsh conditions, midday sun, no cloud cover, and you're just dealing with a very, very harsh quality of light. So how do you, change it up? How do you tame that light? Kind of like a lion tamer with a big chair and a whip. You have to beat it back and tame it down and make it beautiful. And that's what we're going to do here. So here you can see our before image, which I've got up here, and that is our image that just shows what you're going to get straight up with just the sun, okay? And you can see here that it's not doing any favors for our model Ashley. She's a lovely girl, but we've got all of these really harsh shadows happening here under the eyes and the eye sockets, just really harsh. We've got this nasty shadow under the nose. We've got all of this shadowing on the cheek and stuff. And believe me, I love shadows and I'm not afraid of shadows, but they have to be the right shadows and they have to be working for you. And in this case, all of this stuff just is definitely not working for us at all. All right, so let's get rid of that, and we're gonna learn how we can take an image from this, which is this harsh quality of light, to this really beautiful quality of light. Quite something different. I think you'll all agree. We're able to do it with simple, compact, affordable tools that I think you'll find to be a huge help. They're going to really take your lighting game to the next level when you're working with natural light. And you can use all of these tools with strobes as well. That's the great thing, is many of these techniques and tools are applicable to work with strobes and speedlights as well. Obviously today we're just focusing on using them with natural light. But I want you to know that any of these tools that you invest in will definitely do double duty and give you lots of versatility. All right, so let's start off with our step one of the process. So again, this is where we started off. We start off with this kind of light, and here's the overall shot. And you can see here that we've got just a really kind of abysmal quality of light. We've got all of this really harsh contrast as well. Our levels of contrast are just all over the map. We're going from really, really dark darks all in here. And again, we've got those just awful shadows under here. Just not really what we want, right? Now let's undo that. Just get rid of some of that stuff so I can get a clean drawing source again. Okay, cool. So, oops, let's turn that off and go back to our markup layer. Okay, cool. So that's where we're starting off, and then what we're going to do, and that is with no modification. Okay, so that's going to be our big thing, is we're going to modify this light. And we're going to take it, by modifying it, we're going to take it from that quality of light, which I think, as we agree, is pretty awful, what we call crap light, and we're going to take it from crap light to beautiful light. And we're going to do that by using diffusion and reflection. So we're going to diffuse our light from above. We're going to bounce light back from below, as you saw in the feature and the behind the scenes photos. And you can see here we were able to create just a gorgeous, beautiful, soft quality of light that has some dimension to it. It's really a beauty kind of look. And again, we're going to do it with really lightweight and affordable tools, right? So we're going to go from what we have over here on the left to what we have over here on the right with diffusers and reflectors. All right, so let's take a look at our step one. The first step in the process is going to be to diffuse light from above. And you can see here that what we're doing when we do that, when we diffuse our light, we're cutting the light, we're creating a much more even quality of light. You can see here that on the face, all of a sudden, like if we look at what we had before, look at that. Just with this one simple step, we're able to turn it from that to that. So much improved quality of light right off the bat just by diffusing. And this, I believe, is a 2-stop diffusion on the Lastolite tri-flip diffuser, the 30-inch. And we'll talk about all the gear later. I've spelled it out really specifically for you. I'm also using this bracket here, which will allow you to attach these Lastolite reflectors and diffusers to a light stand. But you can see here that I do have an assistant holding it, because that's the thing. There are larger diffusers and reflectors that you can use, but once you start doing that and more robust with stronger frames, then you have to introduce extra light stands and additional assistants and everything. So there's kind of a trade-off. I wanted to show you lightweight, compact, really affordable things, because that's one of the things that I kept hearing over and over again was people want to work with the fewest possible assistants so they can, if not no assistance. And while I understand where that's coming from, it really is not realistic. You can see here that there's a trade-off. Because we're working with lightweight equipment, we have a flexible frame, and that flexible frame is not very, it's not going to be, it's not going to love the wind. So the minute that you have wind coming along, you think it's going to fly away or it's going to bend and be uncontrollable. So that's why I've got Jeremy holding it. So, you have to, realistically, I always find it's a good thing to have an assistant. An assistant could be anything from, just someone who happens to be on set to someone that you hire. But it runs the gamut. It's always really a good idea to have an assistant. I wanted to do this and show you how to do it with without any assistance and just using these brackets, but it really just wasn't feasible. The minute the wind picks up, you realize, hey, I really need a second pair of hands. So, that's my pitch for assistance. Additionally, I have this umbrella here. I always keep an umbrella on set. It's really a very useful thing to keep talent cool. This was a boiling 100 plus day in the Florida heat. So when the talent is not being photographed, they're under the umbrella. And when they are, it's a great way for proofing to be done here. You can see Nina is watching the images as they roll off. I'm shooting tethered wirelessly with my Phase 1 IQ 250 to the iPad, and she's able to kind of see what's going on, where if it's in the bright sunlight, it's just kind of impossible to see. All right, so that is step number one. We're diffusing the light from above with a diffusion panel. And again, this is a Lastolite 30-inch diffusion panel, and you can see we've got just a much improved quality of light with that simple one step. All right, but we're going to step it up. We're going to make it even better. We're going to move on to step two. And in step two, what we're doing is we are bringing in another reflector. Well, our first reflector, this is a diffuser, but we're bringing in the same tool, but we're using it with reflective material on it. And here again, you can see that I'm using the bracket. In this case, the wind isn't affecting it, so I'm able to use it on a light stand, no problem. I've abandoned the light stand that we had in the last shot because it was just kind of untenable. I just had Jeremy hold it freehand. But so here we go. Here's our reflector, and what that's doing is that is bouncing light back up in toward Ashley, and it's opening up all the shadows and stuff that we have here. It's opening up the eyes and all of that. And I did have a shot in here where we can take a look at what we're looking like, what things are looking like before that step. So let's take a look at that. So let's take a look at what it looks like before. We'll turn that off. So there's before, and then if we take a look at after, you can see here that the shadows are definitely opened up under the neck and in the eye sockets and stuff. So that's really what that's all about. It also gives you a catch light, and we'll take a look at that catch light in a minute as well. So let's do that now. Let's take a look at our catch light, and you can see here that is really really beautiful quality of light. I mean, we've opened up, I'm on my markup layer. So we've opened up all of the shadows under here. We've opened up the shadows under the neck. This fabric is all much more opened up. If you're doing any kind of work where you really detail the fabric is important for those of you guys doing any kind of fashion work. And plus, women love their clothing. They want to see that stuff. So if it's all dark and shadowy, it's not really the best scenario. I'm also getting some light in here, which is important. So this doesn't all go completely dark. And we've got that cool catch light happening here. Typically I'm getting, I'm favoring a catch light from above, but we've got a little bit of that going on here, and I don't really mind the catch light from below. It doesn't bother me in this case. I still think it's really kind of a beautiful quality of light overall. If you look at that, it doesn't jump out at me and say, hey, that's weird. It just looks really pretty. It's kind of a hallmark of beauty lighting, having that clamshell lighting effect, that over and under lighting. So typically there's going to be a catch light in the lower portion of the eye. All right, so let's take a look now at step 3, and this is going to be our finessing step. Let's go here to step 3. There we go. Okay, so step number 1, we diffused our light. Step number 2, we reflected our light from below to open up shadows. And step number 3, where we are now, I've added in another reflector. That's over here. That's a smaller Lastalite tri-flip. That's one of their 18-inch ones. It's just to pop in a little bit of light to give us a nice highlight on the hair there and to open up some shadows on the shadowed side of the face. Okay. Now I could have just as easily flipped this around. You can see here that there's black fabric on this side of the reflector. So I could have just flipped it around if I wanted a more sculpted, kind of molded look. I wanted more shadow. I could have accentuated shadow by doing that, right? But in this case, I wanted a very open, airy kind of beauty look, so that wouldn't have been appropriate for that look. So you can see here that with just a few simple tools, we're able to really produce this gorgeous quality of light. I mean, I think that these pictures look beautiful. I'm really pleased with them. I know that they look a million times better than what we started out with. I think that if you look at the before and after, you can see here that there's just, a big difference. So I wanted to show you also, full disclosure, I wanted to show you straight out of the camera, and I also wanted to show you what things were done in post. So you can see here the straight out of the camera with a little bit of white balance in Capture One Pro 7, and then you can see the post that was done in Capture One Pro 7 and Photoshop. This black and white image was largely done, I'd say about 90% of it was done in Capture One Pro 7, an amazing piece of software. I encourage you guys to check out Capture One Pro 7 if you haven't. It's really amazing. Then the second image over on the right, also straight out of camera with a little bit of white balance. And then this was pretty much done in, there was just, aside from the contrast and some exposure correction, stuff like that, the effect, the look of it was created in Photoshop. All right, so not everybody is crazy for gear, so let's take a look at the gear, get real geeky for a minute, and focus on exactly what gear was used. So I started with, I used 2 Lastalite Tri-Flip 8-in-1 grip reflectors of those 30 inches. I used one above with Diffusion, and you can see it up here. It's got all these various fabrics. It's up in the upper left-hand corner there. It's got diffusion panel it comes with, and then you can put on a reflective fabric. So I used Diffusion above, and then I used a white reflector below. I also used these brackets, which you see over here on the right, and that just allows you to kind of position the, to attach the reflector or diffuser to a light stand, and you can see that picture there in the lower right-hand corner. And then moving back to the other side, you can see the smaller reflector that I ended up using to pop in a little bit of a highlight on the hair. And that is the 18-inch. Let's just take a look at that real quick for a minute. I wanted to show you that highlight. So let's turn that back on and go to the markup. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so just going to go back to my brush. Okay, so here's the highlight that I'm talking about. This is what I was popping in with that third smaller reflector, which was over here, popping in some of that light. And it also helped to open up some of this. Right? So it's just really subtle, but it does help, and it does really help to create and polish off that effect. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Excuse me. be just grab a sip of water there. So as I say, that's going to wrap it up for this month. I encourage you guys to try these techniques and tools. This is about $300 worth of kit, so not a huge investment for just a really big return on investment, I think, to be able to go from, let's go back to this to that, right? So come on back next month. I'm gonna show you another set of really cool techniques for working with natural light. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have, and I will see you next month.